Welcome in to the I-80 Boys podcast. I am the real star of this show, Chris Vaca. This knuckle dragger to my right here.
Just call me Tits McGee, a.k.a. Ron Burgundy.
Well, fair enough. All right, Ron. What's going on, though, Christian? What's up, man? I see you got the name as a dog, and I'm a hog today, so I'm assuming you're a bulldog. I'm assuming we're talking about the Razorbacks today at some point.
Hey, man, we might just have to do it, man. Can we get can we call the pigs in? You know how to do that?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I do. I grew up. We raised them on the farm. Believe it or not.
Oh, let me hear your best. How would you call a pig in, man? Or a hog, I should say.
All the time, man.
I can do what I would say. Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, I guess I'll give my old college try here. Go dogs.
God, this guy, Jesus, this show sucks. God. All right. Anyway, Christian, what's up, man? What's good? I know we're talking some college football. We get the pregame warm up. What's up, man? How you doing? I mean, it looks like what are you drinking over there? What was that?
I'm drinking a little bit of called, oh Lord, what is this thing called? 13th Colony. It's a little Georgia bourbon here.
Of course, right? It's Georgia. Of course. Okay, I like it. All right.
So,
all right.
Pretty damn good stuff, man. It's got all the tasted notes that you would want in a bourbon. So,
okay, I like it. Well, you know me. You know me. Right here, got the corn cob on it for the farmers and corn huskers. Support my my state, Christian.
Man of elegant taste over there, Chris.
Yeah, I know. I know, right? Piss in a can. I know. I get it.
Well, Chris, you want to jump into a little bit of the first topic here, then?
Yeah, let's get it on here. It looks like we're talking about a little Florida loses out on quarterback Austin Simmons, which just kills me. I believe he went to Ole Miss, Christian, I think we brought up on the last pod a little bit. I know Lane Kiffin's got to be trolling all over that shit. Is you know my boy over there. I mean, this guy's a 10th grader. I don't understand. I guess I want to start with this, Christian, and I'm going to throw it back to you here real quickly. Do you agree with a kid leaving as a sophomore in high school? If you guys don't know what reclassing means, it means the kid's super smart. I think he's got I didn't know this was possible to have a fucking 5.34 GPA or some shit. Yeah. So he's obviously super intelligent, which I'm not knocking. But he's a sophomore right now, currently going to be his junior year coming up. He's going to reclass in the class of 2023, or 2024, which would be next year or this year. Sorry, 2023, which is just crazy to me. He's supposed to be in the class of 2025. Do you think that? I guess I want to start that out on the pod here, Christian. Do you think that's a good thing? Or I mean, we've had Quentin Ewers did it, did he not? Not 2 classes though, 1.
No, he just jumped 1. Then he sat a year, I think, at Ohio State. Then he ultimately transferred over to Texas. But yeah, I mean, here's the way I look at it, Chris. I look at it kind of like this. If we're talking, it depends what you're talking about, man. If you're talking about you're a genius and you're going to college and you're getting a head start on your education, fantastic. If you're playing football in the SEC, yeah, that's tough, man. That's really a tough thing, and that kind of brings me to a question that I'll bring it up a little bit towards the end of this here. You guide me to a good question there. That's a ballsy move, man. That's a ballsy move.
Well, yeah. To interject here, I guess you answered it well. I guess my answer to my own question basically is, I think it's terrible for football. Do you really think that 2 extra years of high school football is going to hurt him? No, it's going to help him. I mean, that's the experience. Still throwing the football, even at the high school level, dude. I guess I just don't understand. I guess my real question, Christian, is Florida that fucking desperate at QB that they need to go reach out to a sophomore currently in high school going to be a junior? I know I bag on Florida and they hate me and I don't like them, but I mean, it just looks like you guys are desperate as shit. I get from the academic standpoint, I know he's super smart, great. But this kid isn't even fully developed yet, physically.
No, he absolutely isn't. I just looked it up, by the way, Chris. This kid's 6'2", 6'2 and a half, 180 pounds. 180 pounds.
Bryce Young is small for the NFL.
Right, which means if he's 180 pounds on these recruiting things, these recruiting things and all these college
probably $1.65.
Yeah, he might be in the 8th grade for all we know. Someone needs to check this kid's birth certificate. In all seriousness, though, right? He's going to end up being like that. What was that? The bench warmers where the kid's like, I am 12. It's a grown man drinking Tecate beer. Look, he's a 4-star prospect. There's a lot of kind of things that, to me, like if he was a 5-star prospect, he was the number 1 player in his class. He was like 6'5", 225 as like a sophomore, maybe.
Right.
Honestly, maybe.
But that's Andrew Luck you're talking about. I mean, that's, he's a generational talent coming out of high school. He was in college at Stanford. Obviously his career ended really shortly because the Colts fucked him in the NFL by not putting anybody around him and damn near got him killed. But that's a generational talent. I mean, this is my thing with Austin Simmons. Like I said, I'm not saying this kid can't play. I believe he's 77th ranked in the 2025 class. I mean, that's overall. So, I mean, the kid's he's a 4-star, and that's great. That's great. But I guess my point is he's got 2 more years of high school football to play. He can up that and up his recruiting and everything and improve his game, more importantly, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And here's my other thing. I know that Florida lost on what's his name, Jaden Rashad or whatever for the next year's class, but they got like that DJ Lagway, right? But me thinking about Florida is just like they're going to ruin that kid if they start him as a freshman next year anyway. Florida's years away from being a relevant program. I'm serious. Like,
I don't think either one of them is trying to do this. I don't think Ole Miss and/or Florida is recruiting this kid to start him next year. I think it's really just they want to get him on campus. They want to kind of tutor him, do all that stuff. I mean, hell, I hear Florida's so desperate for a quarterback right now, Chris. They're considering getting baby Gronk on campus. Well, switch over to quarterback.
Fuck, but judge it by their quarterback currently in Graham Mertz, Graham Cracker, as I like to call him. They would actually, I think, may have a better chance of winning games. I watched a lot of Graham Mertz at Wisconsin, as I said Wednesday. I don't know what's up with this program. I don't understand this. I don't even think I'm surprised even Ole Miss went after this that early. I'm sure they're interested, and Ole Miss has got a slew of quarterbacks on the roster right now with Spencer Sanders and what's the other, Jalen Dart? I mean, you know what I mean. They got
Dart, yeah,
Jackson Dart. Sorry, excuse me.
You're good.
Yeah, no, it's like I just don't understand why even this kid's parents even think this is actually cool in a way as far as the football standpoint of it. I just think we're talking football here. I'm not talking academics. We know he's smart. I get that. I did hear, though, he throws a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. So, I mean, kid's obviously got a fucking rocket for an arm. But I'm talking about we've seen a lot of guys with rocket arms in college football, the NFL. It's all upstairs is where it really counts. And I think 2 years of high school football, even another year at least, pull a Quentin Ewers at least, and get that another year of experience under your belt and obviously grow physically. I mean, he's not very big. 6'2", 180 is a stick, bro, if that's even accurate.
100%, dude. I mean, you talk about that maturation process from being a sophomore to the end of your junior year of high school. I mean, it's phenomenal. That to me is like the most critical point. Your 100%. Freshman year, you're figuring things out. Sophomore year, okay, you start to kind of maybe have a down year, whatever have you. But that junior year, dude, that is the most critical part. I mean, that makes or breaks a lot of kids in America. They either gain stars or lose stars. And that, to me, is where a lot of recruiting's happened historically. Chris, this brings me to a really important question. All jokes aside, who looks worse here, right? Florida or Ole Miss getting this kid to come in?
I think it's both. I mean, are these two teams that desperate for a quarterback? That's for this coming year. That's what surprises me with Ole Miss. And like you said, yeah, they're not going to start him at Ole Miss. That's for damn sure. Florida, I really don't know what that fucking school and those people they got running that program. But I will say, it's great to get him under there, but you're not going to play him. So why isn't he just playing another year of freaking high school football then? I don't mean to shout in the mic, but I mean, just I don't get it.
You know what? You're absolutely right, man. To me, I look at it and I say, I think Florida, hands down.
Okay.
Florida looks worse here because they lose out on him, right?
True.
That's the realistic reason why. They lose out on a kid. You're trying to get pretty much a sophomore, going to be a junior this year, to go out and transfer in. Arguably, I memean, if he does come to Florida, like you pointed to, does he play this year? I mean, are they really going to put a 15, 16-year-old kid back there who weighs $170, $180 in the SEC and let him play? What about next year? 190, like 200 pounds, right? Then what are you going to do? I mean, he's not even eight. He'd basically be. Think about this. You give me shit all the time for Stetson Bennett being like a 29-year-old man who didn't get a degree. What about this kid who will be he can't even legally drink a beer by the time he graduates college?
That's my point, and you're exactly right. It's like I'm not saying this kid can't play, but I'm saying if I think actually either of these teams, they're not going to start this kid. So why not just play another year of high school football? Even if you are committed to Ole Miss, play another year. And if you feel like, hey, this is time to come out and you want to go to Ole Miss, and honestly, both these schools, both are kind of question marks this year, Christian. I mean, that's the big question. I honestly think Billy Napier's got maybe one more year after this. I don't think that guy knows what the fuck he's doing there at Florida, personally. I really, truly don't. Lane Kiffin, I like Lane. I think he's funny. I love that he trolls a lot of schools, and I think it's hilarious. But all jokes aside, as you said, Lane Kiffin, what's really his biggest win? I mean, Hugh Freeze was kind of, in my opinion, a better coach there than he's been so far, honestly. And I'm not saying Lane Kiffin, we got to give him a little more time, but it's like, if you're not knocking off Bama, if they knock off Bama this year, this would be Ole Miss's biggest win in a long time, right? I actually think they do have a shot because I'm very down on Bama, especially the last couple months from what I've seen. I think you are too, Christian.
Yeah.
But it's like overall, we're obviously talking about this kid, Austin Simmons. And like I said, it's not that I don't think he can play. It's just at that age, though, no, there's a reason why you go through high school. There's a reason why you get on board with a college and go through the maturation process, as you said, and get into the weight room and all that stuff.
100% right, dude. To me, Lane Kiffin's that uncle that most people have that got hit by a bus and then got a shit ton of money from it. But it's like a hillbilly, you know what I mean? It still does dumb, reckless shit. That to me is like Uncle Lane, right? And Billy Napier is kind of like that guy that, he's just trying really, really hard, but he just can't catch a break.
He's in over his head, dude.
I don't have any personal issues with Billy Napier. I actually like him better than Dan
Mullen.
Shit. Yeah, I like him better than Dan Mullen, man. I could not stand Dan Mullen.
Yeah, he was a douchebag. I agree. And I'm not saying Billy Napier, by the way, since we're on Florida, I don't think Billy Napier is like an idiot or does anything to, draw negative attention to himself. I think he's in over his head personally. I just do. You know what I mean? It just Florida keeps having these top recruiting classes. And then, you hear the Florida people, as we found out a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was a month now. Well, Chris, we've had one of the top recruiting classes. Well, then why haven't you guys made a fucking bowl game then? I mean, they've had 2 consecutive losing seasons. I think they're going to struggle this year, Christian, to even get to a bowl game again. I truly do with Florida. Like, I really do. And it's like these people in the comments, and I'm not trying to get stuck on that, but it was like, you guys are fucking crazy. You brought in Graham Mertz, Billy Napier crowns him the next Tim Tebow, and I'm just like, what fucking planet? You guys are living on a different planet than I am. You know what I mean?
More like Tim Tebow when he was with the Patriots.
You said it best. Exactly.
Good Lord, dude. Yeah. I think it's just crazy. This brings me to my last question about this, Chris, though.
Yeah.
Kids in America, like legitimately, do you think as sophomores or even juniors in high school could play and contribute big time at the collegiate level?
Personally, I mean, to answer that question myself, and I would like everybody that does watch this show to comment in on the channel and let me know if you actually think this could happen. I think there's a handful. Are you talking just quarterbacks? Or are you talking just wide receivers, running back?
I'm talking any position.
Unless maybe you're a guy like, and I hate to use Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's been a monster person, right? His whole time. You watched him at Bama, Christian. He was a monster then. I think there's just a very, very select few. And I'll use this in a lot of sports. Basketball, LeBron James could have played in the NBA at 16. Now, he wouldn't have had the crazy rookie year that he did there. But there's very few people on this planet. I think Andrew Luck in high school, because he was considered the next John Elway, which John Elway, from my understanding, was like literally in high school was talked about as the GOAT of all time at high school quarterbacks, one of them anyway. You know what I mean? And obviously we saw what happened in college in his NFL career. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the top, 10 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. And I agree with that. But it's like this kid, nothing against this kid, but you're not John Elway. I think I'll bring up a really good point, Christian. Trevor Lawrence didn't leave high school early, right? He's one of the very few guys I've seen start as a fucking true freshman and was awesome. That's rare that even happens. You know what I mean? He was, when he was a high recruited. If there was 6 stars, they would have gave it to him then when in high school. I mean, he was talked about a ton, right? He's one of the very few guys. Like, this kid would have to be Trevor Lawrence basically times 2 and be 2 years younger, reaching the college level. I don't see it happening, Christian.
Yeah, I would say, like, play and maybe contribute in some kind of way, right? That would be quality at like this level. I would say maybe 5 to 10 a year. 5 to 10 a year, right?
Right. And you're talking about every position. Obviously, I was talking quarterback, but like you said, your body's got to be super physically developed even. You know what I mean? Like at any position. I don't care even if you're playing fucking corner.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, how a lot of these kids get these stars and these ratings, everything. Obviously, they play really good on the field, but then, you also got to go look at they're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger than most of the competition that they're playing against. So that's how they obviously stand out, right? But are you faster, bigger, or stronger than I don't know, Will Anderson?
Yeah,
Terrence Cody back in the day, right? Ndamukong Suh, your boy.
Jesus, yeah.
I mean, I got one for you here. Let's see here. Jordan Davis.
That was who I was going to bring up.
Yeah, Jordan Davis. You telling me right now you're a pretty big 5-star. You're the number 1 rated guard in America. You line up against Jordan Davis or someone that stature.
Not a chance.
Game 1.
Not a chance. Not a chance in hell, even at that age, to try to block Jordan Davis. I don't care how big you are. I mean, there's kids that are that big, right? There's kids that are offensive linemen that are monsters as sophomores, but are you strong? Probably not compared to what you should be as far as you're looking at upper echelon college teams. Like, look at Michigan's O-line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are massive people. Alabama, a couple of years ago especially, had just monster offensive linemen. Like, yeah, they had a hard time. Christian, they had a hell of a time blocking Jordan Davis. They could block him, actually. I mean, that's why he's playing in the NFL. Like,
yeah.
And he ran some 4.5, like for a guy that's like 300 and some odd pounds. Just mind-boggling to me. So yeah, to end this discussion, I don't have much more to add to it. I just think this kid, like, honestly, I don't care if you're smart. That's great. That's awesome. He's going to have a future outside of football, no doubt. But physical attributes and just like Florida to go to, you're pulling out of Florida to go to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is actually a better program this year. But to do what? I don't think either of them are going to start him this year. There's no way. Like, just play another year of high school football, bro. Play another year. See what happens with both those programs. Maybe you want to go to, has a great, junior year, Christian, and he says, you know what? I want to go to Miami or I want to go to, wherever. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand this. This actually, when I read this and we've been talking about it a little bit off air, it's just like, man, I don't understand.
Yeah, dude, I don't get it either. By the way, I mean, I'm kind of like Jordan Davis over here myself. I get similar things. 40-yard dash, sub 5 seconds. Not as big, you know what I mean? But still, that's still pretty impressive for someone like
Yeah, no shit.
Well, Chris, you ready to get into some Arkansas Razorback football? I mean, what are your thoughts this year going into Arkansas?
I'm not going to be I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a boatload about Arkansas football. But what I do know is that they can run the fuck out of the football, judging by last year's team. I do know that KJ Jefferson, their quarterback, is a stud. Like, he is a really good quarterback, especially in the SEC, where I think the talent level is pretty much far superior than any other conference. It pains me to say that because I'm a Big 10 fan, but no, I'm a realist. I'm not dumb. Thing with Arkansas last year, 7-6 season last year, not a bad year, especially when you getting your shit beat in the SEC. It's not easy over there with the LSUs of the world, Christian. God, forbid I have to say Georgia. I know that makes you happy. Alabama. We're talking about a lot of good teams down there. I don't think I have to educate anybody on the SEC and how good it is. But they did average 32.5 points per game last year. That finished 35th in the country. That's very good, especially playing in the SEC where I think a lot of good defenses played as well for the most part. Here's the problem, and you know where I was going with this, the defense. Giving up almost 31 points a game. That was 101st in the country out of 132 teams last year. Jesus. Hard to win a lot of games when you're giving up 30 a game. They did have the ninth. Let's go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's funny that you bring that up. I know you're getting ready to jump into another stat, so sorry to cut you off here, Chris. No, but to me, this is what I think about Arkansas last year. It's really weird because I looked at the same stats, right? And I'll get to some of the stats here that I've got. I know you've got your own stats, but their defense last year at certain points played really, really well. Certain games, like it was the weirdest thing ever. They would just shut teams down, but then they would struggle to score 30 points on offense. So it was like you're a Nebraska fan. Oh, yeah, it's like they would just flip-flop. They couldn't put a complete team together. They either give up like 45, and score 50, or they would give up 20
be a 14 to 10 game.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, I'm glad you interjected there because that's actually exactly where I was just going to go with that. That was my next statement is they did have the 19th toughest strength of schedule last year, obviously, and that doesn't surprise me playing in the SEC. So they played a lot of good teams last year. There's no doubt about it. But I was just going to say that after that was my point was like they had some weird games. And you brought up Nebraska, and obviously I know how to talk about Nebraska watching them. They had some games where Georgia Southern, they score 40 but give up 42, Then they play Iowa, and it's like a 17-14 game. It was weird. Defense showed up every once in 4 games, and I think that's kind of how Arkansas was last year too. I mean, yeah. I will say their offense is way better than their defense overall last year, but we're not talking about last year. I'm just bringing up last year's stats. Like I said, I touched on KJ Jefferson. I think the kid's a stud. He did complete 68% of his passes last year, which I think is pretty impressive at the college level, Christian. He threw for almost 2,700 yards. He had 24 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's got some good legs, man. Rushed for 600, damn near 650 yards, 9 or 10 TDs on the ground, man. That's a hell of a year for a quarterback. It is, especially in the SEC. Raheem Sanders, he's no slouch either back there at running back, almost 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. They had the 6th or 7th, I think, off the top of my head here, best rushing attack last year. I love that about Arkansas. If anybody knows me about this channel, I love teams that can run the football. So I do love they play a smash mouth style of ball. They did that since Brett Bielema. He's no longer there, but they've kind of adopted that whole big offensive lineman. We're going to pound the ball down your throat. The only problem is they don't really have the defense side of the ball that kind of takes them out of some games there. But, I mean, the other question I have with Arkansas, I'm going to kick it back to you here real quickly after this, Christian, is who do they have at wide receiver? I mean, they lost some guys last year. I know they got 3 dudes. They got that I can't even say this kid's name. It's Isaiah Stagma or something like that.
Yeah, he had I think 100-something yards last year.
Yeah, he's a 4-star recruit though. I mean,
he's good. I mean, he's going to be one of their slot receivers there. To me, it starts and it probably is going to end up flowing through Andrew Armstrong. He was at Texas A&M Commerce. But, I mean, he put up 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns last year, so that's not bad. But, again, he's got to prove it at this level in college football. He's going to be joined by a fellow transfer from Bowling Green, Tyrone Broden. I mean, he had, 500 yards last year, 7 touchdowns, at a much smaller level. I've got that as the biggest question mark too, Chris, trying to figure out pretty much who are they going to lean to. They got another good, tight end as well. I think in the transfer portal, a lot of transfer weapons in the receiving room there. So it's just going to be how quickly can they start getting on that same page. I think it's going to be the biggest thing there. But here's the other thing, and I think this is the interesting part of it. Hogs are going to look to transition away from offensive coordinator Kendall Briles, right, and go to more of a. They're bringing Dan Enos, who has a traditional style of offense. He's more of a pro kind of guy, if you will. They got, like you said, you touched on Raheem Sanders. They also have Rashad Dubinson, he put up a respectable 6 touchdowns last year as well. So
they're going to run the football.
They are going to run the football. The one thing I can say, believe this or not, Chris, last year going into the season, right, it was a weird year because I actually had picked Arkansas to be a dark horse team to compete for an SEC championship.
Oh, wow.
Going into the season. Right?
Okay.
Because they were coming off a 9-win season. You get KJ Jefferson back. KJ Jefferson, believe it or not, that year, 2 years ago, led the team in both passing and rushing.
Jesus.
And to me, it's just so crazy because now, like you said, even last year, he still did good. He finished second in rushing last year. So offensively, they got some question marks. I think they're going to be better. They're probably going to look to run the ball a lot more, which, again, it's the SEC. You can run the ball down people's throats, but at some point you got to have somebody step up, and you got to have 2 or 3 guys be the go-to guys for you that can put up. They can put up, receptions and touchdowns, man. That's right. The big thing at this level, and so it'll be interesting. What about the defense? You touched on the defense there, Chris. I got it as a weakness. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I do. I don't know if the defense could get much worse statistic-wise. I just. They gave up a lot of fucking points last year, man. I mean, that's the big thing with them. I'm going to bounce back real quick here to the offense. That's the thing. I think teams know now what KJ Jefferson can do on offense, right? So I think teams are going to hone in on that. And can those receivers step up this year? Can they move the ball? I still think they're going to have to score more than 30 points a game again this year. I really, truly do with Arkansas in the schedule they have. They're just going to have to. It is the SEC. I don't think they're stupid over there. Sam Pittman, their head coach, I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's done a good job there. I think this is going to be, I believe I think it's 3rd year this year coming up. I don't think he's an incompetent coach by any means. It's just going to be tough. The defensive side of the ball is going to be tough. But then I look at Arkansas, and they're not a predominant school like, the SEC. They're not the first team you think of when you bring up the SEC. You'd probably name 6 other schools. And I'm not knocking on Arkansas that way. I mean, it just this year is going to be interesting. I also think, though, that they have a chance to be back up there. 7-6 last year, probably not the season they wanted, obviously, as a program and as a fan. But if you can get back up into that 7, 8, 9 wins again, we'll get into their. I think we're going to break down their schedule real quick here, Christian. I want to hear your thoughts, though. Since you put your money where your mouth was last year, what do you see him doing this year with that schedule? And we'll probably dig into that real quickly, unless you got anything else to say.
No, I'll actually go ahead and touch. I was going to touch a little more on the defensive side here before we get into the schedule. But that's okay though. So look, here's the thing: they ranked 124th last year in total defense.
Jesus,
and we kind of touched on it. I mean, that doesn't tell the whole story, though, right? Because we talked about there was games where they held like LSU to 20 points, right? Yeah. Here's the thing, dude. If they could have scored 30 points in every game they lost last year, they would have finished 11-2.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about that. Like, in this high prolific style of offense that we're at, if you could have just broke the 30-point mark, and I'm not saying that's easy, not in the SEC, but they'd have been 11-2.
Right.
If you're going to be elite, you got to be elite. You got to figure out a way to put at least 30 points on the board. That was like Georgia's biggest problem against Alabama a lot of the times. I think to me, and it's not for lack of players either on the defensive side of the ball, right? The biggest hit this team took was linebackers Bumper Poole and Drew Sanders, who I think will do pretty good at the next level. I mean, they're both guys that played a ton of football at this level, and they're going to be all right. The front seven, right? The front seven, there's some question marks there. There's question marks all over this defense this year. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, right? They're going to, again, Sam Pittman's not scared to go out in that portal and get
no.
Going. He knows he's got a short window and he's got to start doing something. He's got to build upon it. I like that, man. He's Georgia. He came from the Georgia School of Thought there, the Hard Knocks. He was the offensive line coach. So, I'm all for some Sam Pittman. They got some transfers, but they're going to look to probably lean more on Zach Williams and Landon Jackson. They both combined for 7.5 sacks last year. Linebacker room is going to be led by Chris Paul Jr. I don't think in relation to the other Chris Paul, no big deal. He had 62 tackles last year to go alongside of 4 sacks. Secondary is going to be led by safety Hudson Clark. Dude, he had 67 tackles and 11 pass deflections with 1 interception. Am I crazy? 11 pass deflections? That seems like a lot, dude.
No, it is a lot. That means he's in place, but also tells me, God, teams are throwing the ball all over you too, probably. I hate to say that.
Yeah. Don't. I mean, you're not wrong. You were not wrong. To me, a player to keep an eye on this year is going to be UGA transfer cornerback Jaheim Singletary. He was a 5-star cornerback coming out of high school, right? But he didn't record any stats at Georgia. He's talented, but they're going to need him to step up and be like their number one corner. I think the biggest part of this defense, Chris, this is the biggest question mark to me. How do the transfers and how do the backups and / players who saw limited action last year, how do they mesh together, right? I mean, there are a lot of spots on this defense where I think they're solid, but there's a lot more spots on the defense where there's so many question marks. I mean, the offense might have to pick up some serious slack.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. You laid it out perfectly, Christian, as far as the defensive side of the ball goes. Like I said, I think overall as a unit, it's easy for us to sit here and say they got to be better, right? But I mean, they have to, unless if they want to make a bowl game again. And like I said, I don't think Sam Pittman's a bad coach. I just like Arkansas is just going to have to play better. You can't give up 30 points a game, and a lot of that is the SEC. Yeah, they have these crazy anomalies where they don't, they play a low scoring game and give up, 20 to LSU. I get it, but you got to drop that number a little bit, man. I mean, that's a lot of points, and that's putting a lot of pressure also on your fucking offense to have to score a shit ton of points. You know what I mean? The SEC is not the Big 12 or the Pac 12, in my opinion, as far as shootout games. They're not. Now, you might see that with, the old Alabama idiots out there saying, well, we scored 49 against, LSU or Tennessee when it was 52 to whatever that game was nuts. That happens every once in a while. The SEC is not a track meet. And that's where Arkansas, I think, has to get that turned around on the defensive side of the ball. I think the transfers are going to have to step up. I think Sam Pittman knows that. I don't think he's a dummy. I think he understands that. And he's like, we're going to have to play better on the other side of the ball this year. So I'm sure they're focusing on that. And I'm sure they're going to try to make it better. I do. I don't think they're going to be worse on defense this year. I really don't. Would you say 124th in total defense? There's 132 teams last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Nebraska was bad on defense. Holy shit. That's rough. But, yeah, no, it's really all I got to add on as far as offensive defensive side of the ball goes, Christian. I think you did a really good job of touching on that.
Well, appreciate it there, boss. All right, let's jump into what do you think? I mean, Chris, what do you think they're going to do this year, man? What do you got, man?
I'm going to say here's this is just my opinion. And I ain't afraid to lay it out there, but I have them at 8-4 this year. And we'll break down the schedule here, Christian. You scroll up. I want to see that first game real quick here. Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU. Arkansas is going to roll those teams, BYU included. The LSU game, they played them tough last year, didn't they, Christian? If I'm not mistaken.
They did.
It's at LSU this year, though. And I know you're not as big as I am in home field advantage, but at the end of the day, LSU, obviously I have them higher in my rankings. LSU is going to win that game. A&M is kind of scary. And I know we haven't talked a ton. We have talked about A&M, but not a ton this year. I actually think Arkansas can beat them. I know that might surprise you a little bit, but that's a tough stretch there where you go LSU, A&M, Ole Miss, and Bama, right? I mean, if they even come out of that 2-2, that stretch, and I'm probably having losses to LSU and Alabama personally. Ole Miss, though, Lane Kiffin, we talked about him just earlier, and that team, they're obviously looking to get better. They need to get better. Otherwise, he ain't going to have a job, and he'll bounce to his 17th school here. I just overall, I see LSU, Alabama being losses, and I hate that because I'm not an Alabama fan whatsoever. The Mississippi State game, Mississippi State, I think, is going to be super down this year. Florida, you guys all know what I think about Florida as being a dumpster fire again this year. Auburn, I think they're in the same. I actually think they're in the same category as Arkansas. So that could be a potential loss. I think Missouri is going to be much more improved this year. But I have 8-4, Christian. I will definitely say losses to LSU and Alabama. I would scatter in maybe an A&M, an Ole Miss. I know this sounds very, very vague, but even Auburn. I have an 8-4. I want to hear your thoughts. Arkansas is a very interesting team to me this year. I think they have a chance if they really get hot with the veteran quarterback, which I do love. If their defense improves, I could see maybe a 9-3, God, dare I say 10-2 season out of Arkansas this year. I know that's stretching it. They'd have to win a lot of tough games, but I'm not throwing Arkansas out the mix here. I'm actually relatively high on Arkansas. I just think their defense is just such a question mark. It leaves a lot of room for debate.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely said it right, Chris. I've got them at 9-3.
Okay.
9-3. I got losses to LSU, Ole Miss, and Bama.
Okay.
Could they lose to Mississippi State? They did it last year, right?
Yeah.
Auburn's never a tough game, especially, or Auburn's never an easy game, especially late in the year, right?
No, they're not. They usually get better.
Missouri, kind of the same thing, right? Missouri's that weird team.
Missouri's going to be better this year, dude. I'm actually, I don't want to say I'm high on them. I think they're going to surprise some people this year, Christian. Personally.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong on that. I think it's going to be interesting, dude. Like I said, I got them at 9-3, LSU, Ole Miss, and Bama. I don't think that they're going to be – there could be some – they could either shock the hell out of me this year and upset some of those teams, or they could disappoint the hell out of me, lose to all those teams, and then some, right?
Right.
Or they could do some weird shit like beat Bama, lose to Ole Miss, lose to Texas A&M, beat LSU, lose,
Yeah,
I mean,
so what is your? That was what I was going to ask you, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like, they're one of these teams that might beat an LSU, like shock the world week 4, and then fucking shit the bed against A&M and Bama, and maybe lose to like an Auburn. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, they still get to 9 wins or 8 wins or whatever the case may be. But my question to you: what is their floor this year? And I know this is very tough to predict, because I think Missouri kind of is in that Arkansas. Talent-wise, I actually think Arkansas is better than Missouri personally, but I mean, Auburn is in that talk, right? You can't throw out Ole Miss too. You know what I mean? I kind of put those, like, group those guys kind of together in the SEC in a way, as far as just talent-wise and my predictions.
And you asked the tough question. I would say the floor. Man, I will give you like a legit floor here of
6, 7,
5, 6 wins. I mean, because you got to think BYU, dude. Maybe BYU can play spoiler. They do it every. I feel like year. They always keep some or they always get it right down to the wire, or they upset somebody. I mean, it is scary as hell. I think they upset Tennessee not too long ago, right? A couple years back. Obviously, completely different players and stuff, but
but that was with the MILF Hunter and Zach Wilson playing quarterback, though. Come on.
Yeah, I'm just saying BYU could probably shock them, right? I mean, LSU. Texas A&M, Ole Miss, you did say it, man. That is a tough match there. So theoretically, you can start the year off 2-0 and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 losses in a row, and then finish 500. I mean, I'm not saying Florida International is going to beat them, but who knows? I mean, that late in the season, Florida, Auburn, Mississippi State, Missouri, what the hell do they have left to be playing?
Right. No, and I agree. And I will say this, if anybody's watching, I mean, Vegas has them at 7 wins this year, and Vegas is usually a game they're either spot on or they're 1 game off, up or down. You know what I mean? So, like, their floor technically would be probably 6. Their ceiling would maybe be 8. I mean, I think me and Christian are definitely on the higher end of that with Arkansas this year, just with the talent they're returning on the offensive side of the ball. So, interesting take, though, Christian. Arkansas is a very, they're a hard team to predict. They really are. It's one of the toughest teams I think we've had to do, is just far as SEC is so tough anyway, especially that whole middle pack of teams. It's like, damn, they could shock the world and, like you said, beat a Alabama, or maybe beat an LSU week 4, which would be a huge upset. I'm sure nothing would make Arkansas fans happier, to knock off, because LSU is going to be top, 6, 7 start the season. So, if not higher. So I like I said, I'm kind of rooting for the Hogs, man. That's why I got that name underneath my name today. So here we are.
Hog, man. I hope they do, dude. I really hope they do. So, all right, Chris, your favorite segment. Yeah, ready to? I'll let you read us in here.
All right, baby. Texas Tech makes it to the Big 12 championship. Here's my thing. I have done a lot of research on Tech the last couple of weeks. We say it a lot, Christian, you included. Big 12, right? I use the words, throwing a dart at a dartboard every week. Who wins that goddamn thing? I was so torn when I knew we were going to
hey, Chris,
talk about this. What's that?
Hey, Chris, your microphone's kind of cutting out a little bit.
What else is new?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christian, take it over then.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so, I mean, Texas Tech to me, man, this is such a tough thing, and I think it's just like Chris was kind of alluding to. It's so weird, like with the Big 12, because I feel like here's how I want to say this. He's just like you said, it's like throwing a dart at a dartboard. It is so random. You never know who's going to win it. You can get really high on a team. A team can have sort of a promising year. They can start coming up and then bam, right? It's like every other division, but like on steroids, I feel like, in the Big 12. Here's the thing. They have the 4th toughest strength of schedule this year in the Big 12, right? Chris, you back on there, bud?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you much better.
Okay. Apologize for that again, guys. I got to get that figured out.
That's all right. That's all good. So we're just talking about the strength schedule, everything like that, obviously.
Yeah.
Looking at it here, again, do I think they can beat Wyoming? Absolutely. Oregon, not in the Big 12, doesn't matter. Tarleton, doesn't matter. West Virginia, ooh, man. That's going to be a good game, right? Like, just because I think that they're both kind of, like West Virginia has a coach that's on the hot seat this year. Houston, got to do a little more research into them. Baylor, I think Baylor's going to be much improved. Kansas State, BYU's in conference now with them. TCU, Kansas, UCF, Texas. Man, Chris, do you see? Let me ask you this: do you see a scenario where they lose majority of these games? I would say, like, where they win more than two games, right? This year,
Here's the thing:
conference play. In
conference
play.
Yeah, no. You're right. You can, we can take the top, 3 off there. That's fine, right? I mean, they're going to lose to Oregon, Tarleton. I don't even know where the hell that's even from. I'm assuming Texas. West Virginia's tough. I actually think Tech beats West Virginia this year. I do. I'm not as high on West Virginia, even though I think it's a make or break year for their head coach over there. Houston, not worried about. Baylor, we've talked about. Baylor's a tough one. That to me, because I'm relatively high on Baylor this year, but I almost have them in the same category as Tech, right? So you could flip a coin, I guess, in my opinion, on that one. K-State, man, a lot of people have these guys super high. I am not one of them. BYU, we talked about them just a minute ago. I'm not worried about Tech beating them, honestly. I truly not. TCU, I think that's a loss. Central Florida's no pushover, but Texas is a loss. I'm high on Texas this year. I have them going about 8-4, Christian, overall. Joey McGuire, this is his second year as head coach, right? Kind of interesting fact, if you guys don't know, Tyler Slough sounds like he's going to be the quarterback for Tech again this year. For Texas Tech this year, excuse me. He's going against his old team week 2 in Oregon. He transferred from over there, so that's kind of an interesting game. I have seen some previews. They have Tech beating Oregon. I believe it or not, yeah, Christian. I've seen actually it wasn't just one website; it was a couple. Just doing some research on these guys and digging a little deeper into them. Kind of interesting to me. So I say 8-4. I think Tech is kind of like one of those teams, kind of like just we talked about Arkansas, especially in the Big 12. Do I think they can make a Big 12 championship game? Not this year. I'm higher on Texas and Oklahoma. A lot of people will say K-State. I am not one of those people. I am higher on Baylor than I probably am even Texas Tech. I've kind of had to knock them down a little bit. But I do have them, and we haven't released our top 25 rankings yet, but I do have Texas Tech in there. I do. I think they're going to be a good team. I think they're going to be relevant. I think they're going to be definitely a tough out in the Big 12, especially where I don't think any defense has really played. A lot of it comes down, excuse me, guys, to the quarterback play. So, yeah, Christian, what's your number? Did you say a number there, or you didn't really definitely give an answer there, did you really?
No, I mean, I really didn't give an answer. I mean, it's more or less about making it to the Big 12 championship. I just wanted to pull their schedule up just to see kind of who they were playing. But, I mean, you got to figure to make it to the Big 12 championship, you got to win at least probably 10 games, 9 games this year.
For sure.
To even be in
I would say
for
10.
it.
I would say 10.
Yeah.
What would you say if somebody was holding a gun to your head? Texas Tech over and under 9.5?
Fuck no.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely not. Because, and this is why I'm going to talk about it here. They do get back Tyler Show. 8-0 every game he's started, right, and finished. Yep. That's the problem, though. That's the key there. He's been hurt.
Yeah, I know.
He has been hurt. The good news is he did win MVP honors in the Texas Bowl, right? They beat Ole Miss in that game. So that's a pretty damn good win.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? I haven't done as much research, admittedly, into Texas Tech to be able to kind of break it down and give you like position by position things here. But just looking at the schedule and knowing the quarterback, here's what I think, man. Texas, TCU, Kansas State, Baylor, Oklahoma. I think those are the people that have the realistic shot of making it to the Big 12 championship this year. Right? Not that Texas Tech isn't good, not that they're not going to have a good season, right? I think, like you said, maybe an 8-win season, 7-win season's probably like ceiling for them. But in order to do that, I mean, you're going to have to beat Baylor, Kansas State, TCU, Texas. I mean, not all of them in a row, but you're going to have to beat the majority of them in order to kind of finish where you want to finish.
I could see a scenario where Tech gets hot, right? I mean, Tyler plays his ass off. You know, that maybe they lose a close game to Oregon. They get hot. I mean, this is hypothetically speaking here. Anything can happen in college football. We see it every year. There's going to be some surprise teams. Texas Tech would not surprise me, though, if they did make a Big 12 title game. I will say that on air. If they look really good, the offense is clicking, I think you can play in that conference, Christian. We said it right off the rip before my mic took a shit. It's throwing a dart at a dartboard. There's always that team. Is it Oklahoma State this year? Is it Baylor? Is it Iowa State? You know what I mean? They won it a couple years ago. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I wouldn't be like shocked. Texas Tech not runs the table, but goes like 10-2 and is in the Big 12 title game. If somebody would have told me K-State last year would have done it, I would have told you're full of shit. So it happened then too. So, and then they knock off fucking TCU, and TCU still goes to the playoff. So I don't know, man. It's a tough one. Big 12 is that is a conference that's really hard to pinpoint, like really good teams. We say that about the ACC too. You know what I mean? I think that's why the ACC is kind of irrelevant when it comes to conferences. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they're always like playing third fiddle to the Big 10 or the Pac-12. You know what I mean? Because if Miami would step up and be relevant, then you'd have like, hey, we got Clemson, Florida State, and Miami, right? Well, the Big 12 even is worse than that because like no team is consistent enough over an amount of time, even 5 years, right? We say that about Baylor, like, oh, they'll do it. And then TCU looked really great last year. K-State's thrown in that mix. Iowa State a couple years before that. Oklahoma State is always supposed to be relevant, but never can seem to pull it off. You know, there's been years where Texas has been really, really good, right? Oklahoma last year shit the bed after they just destroyed my Husker team. You know what I mean? Like it's just literally throwing a dart at a dartboard every week with that conference and schedules. I'm just like, I don't know. This year, I would, if I had to pick, Christian, I know this isn't the hot topic. Who do you have right now currently? We got time yet. Who do you have winning the Big 12 this year? If you had to lay some money down today, right now.
How much money am I laying down?
I know you make a ton of money. Say you had to put $500 down. That's not even a ton of money.
Texas Tech.
No shit. Okay, I'm not talking odds. Really?
No, I know. Yeah, listen. As you were talking about this, I started thinking about it again more and more. What the fuck's not to like about it? They might be the most TCU-like, team.
That's true.
Last year, going into the season, Max Duggan was supposed to be the guy. He lost a job at a fall camp. He's this, he's that. Who do they really have? They get on this improbable run. It's a Cinderella story.
Right.
Nobody saw it fucking coming.
Okay, right? Let's put it this way. Let me word it to you this way. You make a good point. I'm not disagreeing with you. This is life or death though. Who do you think wins Big 12 this year? If you're wrong, you're toast. You're in a box.
Okay. Well, I like that a lot better. I'm going to bet my money on Texas. But
okay.
My heart, my head says Texas, heart says, Texas Tech.
Okay. I'm with you on that. I actually think Texas is going to be their year too. I really do. I'm a little, I don't know if I'm dick riding, but I'm pretty high on them this year. Right? They gotta get it done one of these years for being Texas.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. I think it all sets up for them. If you're Texas, dude, how in the hell are you going to beat Alabama this year and then lose the Big 12? I just don't see that.
I was just going to get into that. It's like, I actually think right now, currently in my predictions, I mean, not that, I'm some monster YouTuber, but I do watch a lot of fucking football. Probably more than some of those scrubs on ESPN do, and they act like they know something. I actually have Texas right now beat Bama right now as of today. And I think if they do that, momentum-wise, how do you not win the Big 12? I mean, that would be an epic failure. You beat Bama, even though we know it's not in the Big 12. They will be next year. We get all that. Holy shit, dude! Like you gotta run the table. I'm not saying you gotta run the table. Maybe you have one loss in there, but you got to get to the Big 12 title game. You got to secure it. You that would actually give them a legitimate shot, probably to maybe get into the fucking tournament. You know what I mean? The 4-game playoff.
Well, I mean, Chris, you're not wrong here. I mean, it's a situation where, to me, I think it's like this. You talk about Texas beating Bama. I'm going to just slow it down a little bit here. Think about this. For years, the thing that scared me the most about Bama was defense. And that evolved into their quarterbacks and their wide receivers, right? I mean, that just Bryce Young. I mean, you can go all the way back. Like, he was the most recent, obviously. And you go all the way back to like A.J. McCarron. You look at the wide receivers that have come out, of that school. It's just been ridiculous. And they don't have that this year. Texas, they've got Quinn Ewers and Malik Murphy at quarterback, right? So if Quinn Ewers gets hurt or whatever have you, Malik Murphy's going to step in and probably dice him up the same way, but in a different way, right? Because he can actually run. Then you start looking at receiver-wise. I mean, they probably
have receiving core in the fucking country, in my opinion.
I think Ohio State might have them a little bit. I mean, it's really close. I don't think
we'll agree that they're top 3. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's neck and neck. They have a damn good wide receiving room, though. I'm not trying to diminish that. I just think Bama definitely doesn't scare me the way Texas does.
No, if I'm Bama and Nick Saban, I'd be shit my pants right now, because this might be the nail in a coffin for him. Like, honestly, this guy's been bitching, whining. I brought it up fucking couple days ago, dude. This guy's been whining and complaining that he still didn't make the fucking playoff last year. I'm so fucking sick of hearing him talk. Get him off the fucking microphone. But if he loses that game against Texas, I've been saying this, I think Alabama's decaying in front of our eyes. It's got to make Georgia people happy. In a way, it really does. I mean, I can only imagine. I'm not an SEC guy. I'm not an expert in the SEC, but I know enough college football. Look, man, I just think if Texas can do this and pull this off, Texas is one of those teams I have a star by this year. They're very interesting to me what they do this year, because it's kind of a make or break thing. You got Quinn Ewers, who I think is a damn good quarterback. I thought he played really well last year. I think that with the receiving core that he's got, I know they don't have Bijan Robinson back there, but they always plug in a really good running back. If their defensive side of the ball can step up and be well, dude, I actually think Texas, I actually have them in. I don't have them in my top 8 or anything, but they're a team that I truly is very interesting to me this year, just with the schedule layout and coming in. They're going to be in the SEC next year, Christian. You know this.
Yeah.
They're trying to gear up. I mean, they recruit very, very well down there every year. That's never been a problem with Texas, man. They're right in that fucking area where they can pull kids, and they're still Texas. They're the Longhorns. We get it. I know all that. I think this might be one of those years where, holy shit, they're kind of like a Florida State to me. It's like, is this the year finally? Is this where you guys get your name back up there in the national prominence of college football?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, the other thing I look at too is you want to hear something funny. I know you're a Pat McAfee guy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You call me a stat whore. You're a Pat McAfee junkie over there, by God.
I am. I love Pat. I hate the fact he's on ESPN, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that either. The thing is, I was watching some clips yesterday. Kirk Herbstreit, I think, jumped on the show a couple days ago, maybe, and they clipped it out where they were talking about West Virginia, and then they asked him, who do you think is going to win the national championship this year? And he said, Alabama.
Are you
Kirk Herbstreit said Alabama. He was talking about it they asked him, why do you think Bama's going to win it? And he was like, well, just because every time you count Nick Saban out, everyone's saying they're disregarding Nick Saban. They're disregarding Nick Saban. You can't do that. I'm like, yeah, but you can, though, because eventually Nick Saban, we see it all the time, right? Bear Bryant, right? How many times after
Georgia ended his career?
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah. Who's saying that history doesn't repeat itself, man?
Yeah, if you didn't know that, Georgia, I mean, I'm sure you probably know this, but Georgia won 2 or 3 SEC titles. They're 79, 80, and 81. He ended up dying like 2 weeks after Georgia beat him. I'm not saying I'm not wishing Nick Saban dead. I'm just saying like if I'm not mistaken, my history just I obviously wasn't around to watch that game, but I had heard that like, and I actually think like Nick Saban is in that. He's had a hell of a run, dude. I agree. He's the greatest college coach of all time. I'm not trying to piss off Alabama fans, but it's like what I've noticed though with Nick Saban is like he's gotten more whiny now that Georgia is the powerhouse of college football. He can't be on top forever, man. I saw it with Nebraska growing up. You know what I mean? I thought as a kid, a 10-year-old, that we were going to win 15 national titles. Yeah, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like Tom Osborne retired and things slowly declined, right? And that's where I'm at with like, you know, like Bama's got to like, I guess I'm just looking at them and I keep bringing this up, Christian. I think you'll agree with me. Who the fucking quarterback? I mean, I can't believe they don't have a quarterback. That's what blows my mind. And you said it, touched on it a couple minutes ago. Wide receiver core. I keep saying this. There is no fucking Jerry Jeudy. There is no Julio Jones. There is no Henry Ruggs. There is no.
No, there isn't even a JoJo Earl. There isn't even a JoJo Earl.
Right. There's no John
TCU.
Jameson Williams. There's where are those dudes? What happened? Where did they go? Where did those go? Are those guys all just? I know Ohio State has always had a great crop of receivers, and I get that. But where is Jahmyr Gibbs is gone? Like, what do you have? That's where I do think like Kirk Herbstreit's saying that he wants to count out Nick Saban or doesn't want to count out Nick Saban. Okay, I get it, Kirk, and I've never agreed with Kirk Herbstreit, by the way. You're insane, bro. Alabama's going to have a tough year this year, dude. Write it down. Fucking put it on a piece of paper. I said it. I would like to go back to this pod 9 months from now because there is no way Bama. I don't have Bama even making the playoffs this year. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I don't. I really don't, Christian. I don't think they're that good.
Either. I don't either. I mean, listen, now I will say this, okay? I just will say this. If Saban can make it through this year and they don't, again, I think I said the floor for him is probably 4 losses this year. That's
why I said,
maybe a 3-loss regular season, right? So it could be more, it could be less, right? Wins, losses there. But, you know, obviously, if Saban gets to the end of this year and says, he could just get to the end of this year and say, you know what? It's 2 years in a row. Maybe Georgia wins a 3rd national championship. They three-peat, right?
Put him in a box, dude.
That to me, maybe Saban retires. I'm going to step down. I'm going to step away, right?
Yep, and then they hired Dabo Swinney, who played there.
So I would rather go against Dabo than fucking Saban.
I'm with you. I'm just hypothetically speaking because it's kind of funny if you think about it. But like Dabo, I think sometimes is like almost done with Clemson at times, but especially last year. But I'm with you, dude. I know we're just spitballing here, talking 2-minute drill, but I mean, like I'm with you with Saban, dude. Like I just think people I've heard. I watch a lot of stuff. I don't comment on a lot of things at all, but like. Man, there's still people from Bama that like, I mean, you got Kirk Herbstreit coming on Public Air on Pat McAfee talking about that. And I'm like, I get it's Nick Saban. Like, you don't want to rule out Bill Belichick in the NFL, right? But they haven't been relevant the last 4 or 5 years. Patriots haven't.
No,
it happens. Every great coach goes through it, Christian. Yeah. Every great coach.
Every great coach. It's the beginning and the end, man.
Right. And Nick Saban's probably had one of the if not the greatest run in any football. You know what I mean? He did. That run he had from the 2000, what was it? I don't even remember when they won their first one.
08 or 09.
Yeah, 08. Yeah, I was going to say late 2000s, 8, somewhere in there, all the way up until just a couple years ago, bro. They've won 1 in the last 5. They were winning. At one point, I think they had 5 out of 10. I mean, I don't think anybody does that again. Even you guys. I really don't. Like, as much as I know you love Kirby Smart and you love your Georgia Bulldogs, even if you guys win 3, man, you guys got to win another 2 in the next, 6 years I mean, that's a lot, dude, especially with the changing parts in college football, dude.
It could happen, though. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen because if you think about it, actually, we are the most primed this year. And this is the first time I'm actually going to say this. I'm going to step up for my goddamn dogs, dude. But we have the easiest schedule this year. We have arguably one of the most talented rosters in all of college football.
I would agree.
We have the number 1 recruiting class. We have the number 1 quarterback. We're probably going to flip massive receivers to come in here, right? Kirby's a defensive genius. He's a guru.
I mean,
the future looks bright. Now, I'm not saying, and that's the weird part about college football, 6 months to a year, everything could change.
100%. I will say this. I got a question for you while we're on air here, and I want to get your thoughts here on this. I was thinking about this actually the other day. You're a big Kirby Smart guy. You love him, right? And you got to if you're a Georgia Bulldog. I get that. You love your coach.
Yeah.
How much success, and he coached a lot of years under Saban. Do you think he was, like, how important was he to Nick Saban when they won a lot of those championships? Was it maybe a little bit more him than people think than just Nick Saban? You know what I mean? I think Kirby's a great coach. He's more of a player's coach. I just want to hear your thoughts. This is off topic, I know, but I just want to hear from a Georgia fan. You follow the fuck out of the SEC way more than I do. You're from there. You're always going to know more than I will about that conference and those teams down there. I'm very curious if you think that Kirby Smart was maybe more of a success to Alabama, because since he's left there, it's kind of funny. Georgia now is the team, and I know that's easy to say from like hindsight. Yeah. What do you think on that, Christian? I want to hear your thoughts.
I think he was an integral part of it. I think he was an integral part, but do I think he meant more to Bama? You know what I mean? And that success than Saban did.
I don't want to say it like that way, but I think he was I think he was a huge part of that.
I think he was a huge part of it too. I mean, because you look at it and I mean, like, look at Pete Golding, right? Their defensive coordinator that they had the last few years, right? I mean, he's now at Ole Miss having a great time. It's all fun and games. He got so much shit over the years.
Oh, he got bashed over there.
Right? They pretty much, and you got to think about it this way: if they didn't have prolific offenses, would they have really won a national championship while Pete Golding was the defensive coordinator at Alabama?
It's a good point. It's a very good point.
Don't get me wrong; they had a great defensive year last year, but still, I don't know. I think, to me, Saban does one of the best jobs in the country at getting guys to come aboard. He's like John Gruden, on that show where he had coaches and quarterbacks that would come on and they would talk about everything.
Oh, absolutely. Run through plays.
Future Fired Coaches Association or whatever it was.
Yep.
And to me, that's what Nick Saban does, right? Where he just kind of walks these guys through and it gets their careers started back again. And he squeezes the last bit of coaching that he can out of it.
I think this is the way I look at Saban, and I agree with you almost 100%, almost, though, is that I think Saban's he's a damn good recruiter, but it's helped that he's won a couple titles when he first started getting people in there. I think a lot of it is because of the decisions he makes on the coaches he hires. This is where I have a huge problem with, though, Alabama. You got Kevin Steele, who's like 120 years old, and you got that fucking clown from Notre Dame who's like an infant over there.
Yeah, Tommy Rees.
These are not, if I'm Nick Saban, I'm bringing some guy in with some really good experience. He's been able to do that with Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, guys like that.
Yeah.
That's not the case now. And that's why I think part of it, a lot of it, I'm not going to say all the success was, Kirby Smart when he was there. I'm not, but I think it was even more of a major role than people actually give him credit for. And they don't think about that because just what I've seen Kirby Smart do. I would have not brought this topic up, Christian, if you guys had just won one national title, but now you guys have won back to back. And I'm thinking, damn, this Kirby Smart guy, and I love him talking. If you guys haven't watched his pregame locker room talk, God, they're fucking awesome. Get me hyped up. That's where I thought, man, this guy's good. I think this guy was more of a part of Alabama than most people think. I think you know what I mean? People give him credit.
100%.
And that's nothing to take away from Nick Saban.
And I think you touched on something there with their coordinators. I mean, both of them ranked in 60th and somewhere 60, 65th, somewhere in that area in total offense, total defense, respectively. Look, Chris, they wanted to go out and they wanted to get Jeremy Pruitt, former Tennessee coach, defensive coordinator for him. They also wanted to go out and get Cliff Kingsbury, right? Kingsbury said,
I can't take that.
And Jeremy Pruitt said, hey, I gotta go to McDonald's and do some other shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So, but to me, dude, I think it's just the start of the beginning of the end, right? Rome is starting to crumble.
Yep.
Rome wasn't built in a day, but it fell pretty quickly, right?
It is, but I think it was inevitable, dude. I mean, you can't just win. Alabama's run is I don't think you'll ever see another one like it. Personally, I don't. In my lifetime, anyway. I truly don't. That was insane. I think a lot of people knew that. I think a lot of people talk about it. And I think when you're a Bama fan or the Bama man or whatever, you probably got so accustomed to it. You went through the Bear Bryant era, and they were lucky enough to have crazy good success under him, and then you end up getting Nick Saban after leaving my Dolphins from LSU winning a national title. You know what I mean? They got very lucky too. So like, I just think Nick Saban's done a great job as far as like getting coaches in there that really know what the fuck they're doing. It's like the coaching school of, rehabilitation over there. It seems like for some of those head coaches, because everybody that leaves there, they end up being a head coach, right? Like Kirby, like Lane Kiffin went through there, and even though he was a head coach at other places, but he was shit before he, and I still haven't. We talked about Lane Kiffin, but I mean, it just amazes me like what Saban's done. I'm not trying to like as much as I don't personally care for the guy, like he's done a great job. It's just amazing to me how Georgia's rose up now. Like I said, if they had won one, I would have gave you like, that's an outlier thing. But man, now you guys won 2 in a row, and now you're looking at, God, you guys are staring at 3 in the face. You guys have a really good chance to at least make the playoff. You make the playoff, you know how it is. It's anybody's game there. All you got to do is win.
So let me ask you this, because it's interesting you bring that up. What if Kirby wins 3 in a row? So what if he wins the 3rd one this year? And because Saban's only got 6 at Bama.
Then you start
only got 6,
I think you start talking. If he would win 3, and I bring this up a lot on the pod, obviously too, but it's like, Yale did it last time, 46, 47, and 48, somewhere in there, right? We don't even count that in today's era. Not even, you wouldn't count that in the 70s, 80s era. Nothing against Yale. It just, if he does that, dude, he's going to be in the talk already as already one of the top 5 greatest coaches ever then. And then you're getting into, can he catch Saban? And Kirby's young yet. I mean, for as far as coaches go, he's not an old man.
Young, dude.
That's what's crazy about this. And then, but what they're going to do, and you're going to hear it from the Kirk Herbstreits and the, Chris Fowlers of the world and all those guys are going to sit there and go, well, he coached under Saban. That's the coaching tree, that they're going to say that. And there's nothing wrong with that because it's exactly true. But if that does happen, if you guys win 3, dude, I will be happy to say that I'm probably one, like our age group and people watching college football at the time, to see somebody win 3. That's really never really happened before. And that's what's cool about that. Like to dominate, to dominate college football, especially in today's era with the transfer portal and just all the NIL money and all that crap. Holy shit. Like that would be amazing. I thought what Nick Saban did, nobody would do. You win 3. He never even won 3 in a row. He won 3 out of 4, I think. But Nebraska did that as well, though. And that was in, late 90s, which was fucking, people couldn't shut up about it. That would be insane.
Me, because I'm just spitballing here, man. I'm just thinking about it on the brain here a little bit. Kirby wins, let's say, what?
What's that?
Sorry, I was talking. You said, wow. I was like, what are we?
Oh, no, just wow as in, sorry. You cut out there for a second. I was just like, wow, like that would be, but go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So let's say he wins 3, right? Because the schedule lines up. We got a good quarterback. We've got a great team around him. They win 3. What about the next year? I mean, can he win 4? He's already done the impossible, right? There'd be
that's what's scary about that.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to win 5, right? That would be, I think, literally impossible. This year, he's set up in a good spot. He could do it. Georgia could do it this year, I think. If they do it, right, it's going to get a lot harder the next year. But if they get a quarterback and Carson Beck to come back again,
oh, I know,
they get a lot of pieces back because they're still a young team, I think, dude.
That's a crazy thing. If they win it this year, if they do win it this year. If they do, and I haven't come out with who I think is going to win it yet, but if they were to win it this year, we're speaking hypothetically here, guys. If he were to win it this year with the younger team and losing a lot of the pieces the last 2 years off the defense, and then all these guys come back, holy shit. One thing you guys got working for you, we talk about the schedule, right? It's very PUD. You guys, I mean, honestly, for SEC terms, it's pretty slouchy. Holy shit. Yeah, that's scary. It is, because this is like the year where everybody like, okay, they lost their quarterback in Stetson Bennett. They've lost a lot of pieces off that defense. They all play with the Eagles now, it seems like. I swear you and the Philadelphia Eagles got something going on there. I'm not sure exactly what the fuck it is, but yeah, clearly you got something going on there. Holy shit. But it's like if the stars are aligning, and I love it. You know why? You know why I love it? Because I want Nick Saban to be the second greatest coach of all time. That's what I want.
Damn right, bro. I want Kirby to get it. And this is honestly, if he won, and I'm just saying this, if he won 3, kept it going for 4, the amount of focus, right, you got to probably have to win 3 national championships, the dedication, the recruiting, everything like that. dude, I mean, if he wins 3, they're probably going to put him up there in the same tier as Saban. I think now it's a debate, even though I think Saban's ahead of him.
Longevity-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, that short stint that Georgia will always have, though,
yeah,
most dominant team for, I know it just sounds like 3 years in the broader scheme of things, but holy shit. Like,
right. I mean, but in the modern era, nobody's done that. So if he were to win 3, that puts him, to me, on that same level of Saban.
100% agree.
If they win 4, it catapults him past it.
I put him at 4. I put him probably the greatest coach of all time, even though if you never won another one after that, just because of that dominance. I mean, that's 4 years. That's from a freshman to a senior that never could win a national title unless you played for Georgia. Think about that for a second.
I think if he won 4, he would probably retire, though, honestly.
I would think so. You'd have to, right?
If it was me, I would. Shit.
Yeah, like, see ya.
If I win 3, I'm going to break the bank. I'm going to be like, listen, I love my alma mater, but I'm kind of like Nick Saban here, so you're going to pay me $30 million to coach this team.
Like I said, I mean, first things first. Week 1, it is amazing. I've thought about Georgia a lot lately, just because you look. The more and more we talk about this, and more we deep dive into stuff, it's like, man, I look at their schedule and I go, man, there's no doubt. I can tell you guys right off the rip right here, I have them in the playoff right now. So I think you're stupid not to. There's a reason why they're starting number 1 overall in the AP poll to start season. So, like, a lot of people are on board. I think Vegas has them at, like, I'm pretty sure they have them at like 11 wins already. So that puts you in that, to tell you which wins. But I mean, that's Jesus, man. You guys get in. You imagine the hype, Christian, being a Georgia fan, and you guys are like, let's fast forward to January, and you guys are in the Final Four there. You imagine the hype behind everybody.
Yeah.
No matter how good or bad you look throughout the year, you're in there. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's the great thing, though, man, about that playoff, dude, is anybody can beat anybody. We saw last year with Ohio State. Not a lot of people were giving Ohio State like a chance. Ohio State should have won that fucking game, dude.
Yeah, they probably should have.
I mean,
but we said that about. I mean, how many people really thought TCU was going to be Michigan?
I personally, I wanted to see, and I talked to you about this before that happened. I wanted to see Michigan Ohio State rematch it.
That's the way it should have been if they did it the way it was supposed to be. But you know why they did that? It was because nobody wanted to watch Michigan Ohio State play a second time right away, back to back, essentially. So that's why I think they did that. And then nobody in their mind. I mean, yeah, there were people that bet TCU to win that game outright, but I mean, a majority of people, TCU was definitely the underdog in that game against Michigan, 100%.
I disagree.
Wow.
Because, but you have to think about this, right? Michigan Ohio State, that's arguably one of the greatest rivalries in college football.
No, I agree with that, but
top 2 or 3 rivalry, but you put that on something of, and it's always means something like every year, right? Historically, it always means something. But that would mean more. Like, to me, would you rather, let me ask you this. Would you rather watch Michigan and Ohio State play each other, or would you rather watch Michigan, TCU, or Ohio State, TCU, or Georgia, TCU?
I think you're misconstruing. I'm saying the Michigan TCU game, I think that was like a major upset. I'm saying in the national landscape. Nobody had fucking TCU winning that game against Michigan. Yeah. They were literally 14-point underdogs in that game. That's what I guess getting back to your point is what I said, anything can happen in that playoff. Nobody expected TCU to play Georgia. I don't think so. I think everybody thought it was going to be Michigan and fucking Georgia playing for the national title last year when you saw the playoff bracket. I did anyway. I was like, Michigan's running table on TCU, and they didn't. I mean, that ended up being a crazy good game, and it was a high-scoring shootout, in my opinion.
Basically, what I gathered from that was Georgia's second string could have beat Michigan.
I think Michigan hadn't played for about 2 months and looked like they never fucking snapped a football before. I mean, personally. But I will say that Georgia was definitely – I said it before the season started. You heard me say it. I called you. I remember calling you before the season started. I said Georgia's winning too, and you actually looked at me and said that I was – oh, Chris, and you gave me that fucking bullshit that you always do because you don't want to get high on your own team. And I said, bullshit. I said, Georgia's going to be the best fucking team in college football this year. Would not surprise me if they won 2 in a row. And look what they did. And not only did they do it, that was the boringest national title game I've ever fucking seen in my life. It was just ridiculous. You guys were just hands and knees, everything better than they were.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we got to end this thing at some point.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we just talk football all night, man. I mean,
we
there's
could.
only so much bourbon in this house, man.
No, I'm down to my last half a bushel light here.
Well, Chris, I think we'll get back on it here on Wednesday.
All right,
be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, all
Please
that
do.
good shit.
Please do, guys. Please do.
We'll end up catching you.